Look at the words. What does Allah mention in this verse? When one of you enters into the state of ihram in Hajj, فَلَا رَفَثْ وَلَا فُسُوقْ وَلَا جِدَالٍ. Let there be no rafath, indecency, vulgarity. In a hadith related by Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim and others, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, فَإِذَا كَانَ يَوْمُ الصَّوْمِ أَحَدِكُمْ فَلَا يَرْفُثْ. When one of you is fasting on any given day, then let him not. What's the first thing that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions? Does he mention the law of fasting? That you can't eat, you can't drink, you can't enjoy conjugal relations. Does he mention the law of fasting? No. He mentions the spirit of fasting. This is a great lesson. We are often obsessed with halal and haram, laws, do's and don'ts, finer points. Is this permissible? Is that permissible? And in our obsession with minutiae, with fineries, with splitting hairs, with minute points, we lose sight of the greater picture. We are obsessed with individual laws and we lose sight of the spirit. Allah, when He mentions Hajj, He doesn't mention any of the laws of Hajj. He mentions the spirit of Hajj. In that famous hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam does not mention any of the laws of fasting. The first thing He mentions is exactly what Allah mentions. What does Allah mention? فَلَا رَفَثْ. Let there be no rafath, indecency in speech. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, when one of you is fasting, what shouldn't he do? فَلَا يَرْفُثْ. Let him not be indecent in speech. 2, وَلَا يَسْخَبْ. Let him not shout. That's not one of the laws of fasting. Then what does the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mention? The third thing. فَلَا يَرْفُثْ وَلَا يَسْخَبْ فَإِنْ سَابَهُ أَحَدٌ أَوْ قَاتَلَهُ فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. And if someone else verbally abuses him or quarrels with him, then let him say in reply, I am fasting. So Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mention exactly the same things for Hajj, for the sacred states of ihram, for the sacred states of fasting, which are none of the laws, rather the spirit. Let there be no indecency, let there be no quarreling, let there be no sinning. So these three things are the overarching spiritual teachings of Islam, which is purity of speech, purity of behavior and character, and number 3, purity of relationships. Make your relationships pure with your spouse, with your husband, with your wife, with your children, with your siblings, with your parents, with your neighbours. In that same hadith which I quoted earlier of Bukhari and Muslim, in which the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, مَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. The full hadith is as follows. مَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيُكْرِمْ ضَيْفَهُ وَمَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلَا يُؤْذِي جَارَهُ وَمَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيَقُلْ خَيْرًا أَوْ لِيَصْمُتْ. Whoever believes in Allah in the final day, let him honour his guest. And whoever believes in Allah in the final day, let him not hurt or trouble his neighbour. And whoever believes in Allah in the final day, let him say good, otherwise remain silent. It's purity of speech, purity of deed, purity of relationships. Our relationship should be pure with everyone, not just with Allah. This is one of the most common fallacies, one of the most common mistakes. We think that as long as my salah is okay, my siyam is okay, my fasting, my hajj is okay, as long as my relationship with Allah is okay, then everybody else can go to hell. I've got my Jannah and everyone else can go to hell. Never. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards more on a person mending their relationship with others than He often does when a person mends their relationship with Allah. At times, a person's good deeds are put on hold until a person mends their relationship with others. In fact, this happens regularly. There are a number of ahadith in which the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructs the angels to put somebody's forgiveness, two people's forgiveness, on hold until they mend their relationship. So Allah doesn't forgive them until they forgive each other. In that famous long verse of the Quran at the beginning, in Surah Al-Baqarah, at the beginning of the Quran, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. It is not bir. Bir means virtue, righteousness, piety. Allah says it's not piety, it's not righteousness, it's not virtue. That you turn your faces towards the east or the west. What does that mean? It means it's not piety, it's not virtue, it's not righteousness, that you stand up in prayer and then you face the Qibla, whether it's to the east or the west. Facing the Qibla in itself is not virtue. And then Allah mentions what actually virtue is, what virtue actually is. And Allah mentions many things. Correct belief, giving of wealth, voluntarily, not zakat, but voluntarily. To whom? Not just to strangers in faraway lands, but rather ذوي القربى, to one's own relatives. Allah actually begins with charity to one's relatives. Voluntary charity. Poor, needy, orphans, prisoners, travellers, beggars, those who are destitute. Then Allah mentions salah and zakah. Allah mentions the fulfillment of pledges and promises. So what this verse tells us is that do not think that virtue, righteousness and piety is that you stand up for salah and face the east or the west. It's not just about between you and Allah. It's about you and the rest of creation too. It's not just about you and the Creator. It's about you and the rest of creation. These are the three main teachings of that verse of Hajj, as well as the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about fasting, which is purity of speech, purity of deeds, and number three, purity of relationships. Now, it's not easy. It's not easy. People often say that, well, that person's doing this, that person's doing that. What was the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? فَإِنْ سَابَهُ أَحَدٌ أَوْ قَاتَلَهُ فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. If someone else abuses you whilst fasting, swears at you, or quarrels with you, then what should you do? An eye for an eye? Stand in defiance? Like for like? Answer for an answer? No. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, let him say what he wants. فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. Let him say, I am fasting. And in some hadith, twice, let him say, I am fasting, let him say, I am fasting. And the interesting thing here is, most of the ulama agree that the meaning of let him say, I am fasting, is not to the other person. You don't actually tell the other person, I am fasting. You can, but the teaching in the hadith is not for the other person. And especially the manner in which you say it. If someone's abusing you and arguing with you and you say to them, I am fasting defiantly, it's almost as though you are saying, you're lucky I'm fasting. Otherwise I would respond. And that's only going to aggravate the matter and provoke them further. The meaning of فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ إِنِّي مْرُؤٌ صَائِمٌ in one narration is he should say to himself. Meaning regardless of how the other person is behaving, this person should be better, and in the face of all that provocation, the way to control himself is to remind himself with humility that I am fasting. So this is a lesson. Regardless of the provocation, regardless of the other person's bellicose nature and belligerent behavior, the best way of diffusing situations, of avoiding conflict, is to change oneself. We can't change the world. A father can't change his own son. A mother cannot change her own daughter. How can a brother change his brother? And how can a person change a stranger? The only person you can change with the tawfiq of Allah is yourself. And that's what you should be working towards. Just as that hadith says, in the face of provocation and argument, don't respond in kind. Don't even tell them I am fasting. It's permissible to say it to them as a reminder. But the reminder is not so much for the other person. Because he's in a state of anger. When a person's in a state of anger, nothing gets through. A man was angry. Prophet ﷺ said to the person, someone, I know something which if he says that, the anger will go away. A'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajim. So the man went over to the angry person and said to him, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying, say A'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajim, the anger will disappear. That even made him more angry, and he said, what, do you think there is a shaitan with me? So in anger, nothing gets through. You can't change the other person or talk sense to them, especially when they are angry. The best thing is to withdraw. Advise oneself. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables us to understand these are the three main teachings of the spirit of Hajj and teachings of Islam. Purity of speech, purity of deed, and purity of relationships. وصلى الله وسلم على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على